I will turn my volume up. I will turn y'all's volume up. And the first thing that people hear when they come to our Around the Hearth chat is Paw Patrol. All right.
Paw Patrol.
All right. Greetings and salutations, travelers.
Paw Patrol.
Oh no. So, greetings and salutations, travelers. This is not an Around the Hearth conversion of Paw Patrol, but if you would like to see that, put it in the comments.
No.
Because if it gets us views, I will totally do that. But
you know what? Do it. I agree with you there.
So,
Adam fired me on one of these other videos. So I don't even know why I'm here now.
Okay. I fired you, but if you remember, I hired him back on, but as an intern. So,
I was already unpaid. Like it.
That's fine.
You hired
Titles
him
everything, man.
Intern. That's just cold.
That's right. See what happens.
That's
all right.
Actually, there's a whole movement for internships to actually be paid now. So,
yeah.
You're still not getting paid.
That is
Welcome to this. It is a place where we discuss different things, and you may see a new logo on the Around the Hearth thing, and that is the Great Mustashe. He is here as well as Bomb Squad, so we have definitely upped our Open Legend game. So we'll be getting into that soon. First, a quick kind of disclaimer. This is an adult podcast that sometimes features adults, that sometimes use adult language. Not this one, but others. You have been warned. And I don't think I have any other announcements. If you want to... I didn't do that on our last one. If you want to support this channel, or any of the channel, I don't know. Does Great Mustashe have a channel, have something on Patreon or not?
I do not.
Okay. So, the End of Planar Crossroads does, if you want to support them there. If you want to support Great Mustashe or Bomb Squad, go comment on their stuff. And like it, and share it, and stuff like that. And you can do the same for this stuff if you want to. I think that's everything as far as making sure everybody's announced of who's here. Let's go ahead and get into the conversation. We're going to be talking about our ideas and the trope of the support character. Someone whose main niche that they fit into is supporting the other players and their character's ability to do what their characters do. So this is the buffer and debuffer type of person that you see. Not in the same way necessarily as the controller. The controller was a lot more about controlling the battlefield itself or doing things like that. This one's more about supporting the group. So, since our Open Legend game is so strong, we're going to go briefly through the Pathfinder stuff and some ideas about specific classes, and then we'll go right on into the Open Legend. So, Ross said he had some specific things that he definitely wanted to be here to say about this for Pathfinder. So, take it away, Ross.
Yeah, support/healer normally tends to be the go-to thing I tend to build, so that's always been something near and dear to my heart. In terms of specifically Pathfinder support, you get a lot of good options out there, and I know the typical niche is that of your cleric, who just heals sort of like as a secondary and whose primary is to control the, the buffs and whatnot the party gets and manage the debuffs, which is all well and good. There's a reason why the cleric is sort of like that iconic support caster, because its spell list and everything in that nature does play into that idea. But there are many other great options as well. For example, the good old-fashioned bard is just up there with just some of the fun stuff it can do. And there's also the war priest and the inquisitor. There's also the, if I can speak, there's also the shaman, the oracle, the witch. Lots of great options. But in terms of, specifically, when we say support, a major way to realize how it is differentiated from just your generic healer is the fact that the major bulk of its job is not to fix screw-ups. It's to prevent screw-ups from ever occurring in the first place. You know? It's like you don't buff in everything before the raid. Or you don't buff inside of the raid, you buff before it. And you don't debuff enemies just when you think about it. If that makes any sense at all.
Right.
I feel like I started to get rambly there, but...
No.
Well, yeah, no, the support is really defined as any character in a group that like focuses on helping the rest of the party before helping themselves or hurting the enemy.
Or they're at very least very good at it. Like, that's why I would say less than the cleric. I would say the bard is actually the more iconic support of the base classes. The bard and the paladin by default, because more of their class abilities and powers are so directly intertwined with being more powerful. Like, just the bard and the skald alone, they themselves as a lone character are nowhere near as strong as when they are with a party.
I would actually say the Cavalier is a better candidate for support than the Paladin, because they have so many class features like sharing their teamwork feats with the rest of the party, as well as a bunch of their banner and challenge abilities usually benefit.
That is true. Forgive me, I don't have much experience with the Cavalier. That's normally one class I don't actually see, like, at all.
That would be kind of interesting. You ride back and forth across the battlefield going, "Have at them, men!" or so on and so forth. You can have that image
basically
going.
What happens.
My roommate is shooting at a television.
So yeah, in terms of like pure martial support, definitely the Cavalier. In terms of magical support, you're probably looking at a Skald or a Bard. More so a Bard because, well, the Skald, being able to hand out rage powers and stuff like that is really nice, and just rage in general. It's kind of difficult, especially in games where you're playing really hard into the meta, to use the Skald when you consider the fact that rage, unless you build for it, is actually kind of crummy.
It depends on how many casters are in your party.
Yeah, if you got a bunch of marshals and one Skald, oh god, is it amazing, but... when your class needs magic and thinking and smarts to survive, and you're suddenly not allowed to use said smarts, doesn't tend to work very well.
Well, really, even just having a couple of marshals, because you opt in and out of it at the beginning of the song and every round afterwards.
So that's those bards are... The bards and its variations are definitely what I considered the main idea of a support. Because there's several types of supports in there and stuff like that, but the only class that seems to exist in its inception as the support is the bard. The others have become supports in a similar way to, like, the witch is a really good support with its blessing and curse. It's not blessing and curse. Its hexes. Those work excellent. And
Looks like it could be a pretty good healer, too, because it has access to cure spells. And there are even some archetypes, I imagine, that make it even better for healing.
And the shaman's a similar story. An oracle can do so as well, as far as the divine casters.
Oracles can do about everything.
Yeah, I was actually about to ask you guys, because I don't have as much experience with Pathfinder, but I did do a one-shot and I actually did an oracle. Mm-hmm. And I was doing some looking up, and people were mentioning like oracle with life mystery and like a Paizen practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the fire and forget it healer is an oracle paladin with boots of the earth. So you link to everyone else in your party, and then you activate boots of the earth. And so long as you're standing still, you're regenerating health. But with the oracle lifelink, when you regenerate health, the people you're linked to generate that health. So you just stand still, and everybody in your party gets like a slow
or
health
basically
regen
become
for
trolls.
as long as you're standing still.
Essentially, yeah. It is really damn powerful.
That actually sounds fun. But
there's also like more kind of niche builds, like the Aid and other builds I've seen floating around, which are usually like helpful halfling cavaliers of the Order of the Dragon.
Didn't Tommy, our friend at Black Dragon Gaming, literally just make a min-maxing for fun and profit about that?
He might have cross promo.
Pretty certain he literally just had a video called min-maxing Aid Another.
Oh yeah.
In fact, I'm almost certain of it.
I'm referencing a build that I saw ages ago, but it's likewise probably fairly similar to what I'm talking about. I'll have to go watch it after this.
See, leave in the comments below whether Kane should have watched the show before. No, oh okay.
I don't have time. That's not true. I just don't want
to. All right. So we have some classes that work well for it. As far as races, I figure that most any race you want to use is going to be okay. There are some that fit better into it. Oddly enough, what was it? It is a tiefling. The tiefling that Agabus was. The one that can... No, aberrant. The one that gets to extend its reach. That can be helpful for those touch spells.
That wasn't a tiefling. That was the aberrant bloodline for sorcerers.
There we go. That's an aberrant bloodline.
That gave him his creepy grasshopper arms that shot out of his kimono robe.
Yeah. So, but picking a race that has a bit of reach or something like that can be very helpful for, getting that touch spell where it needs to be or something like that. It lets you stay away from the fight as much as you can, because as the support character, you're usually really middle of the road, so you need to stay in the kind of in between
middle.
Yeah, you need to stay in between the healers who are back here and the front lines that are up there, while still being able to help both.
There's some casting classes that you can cast through a familiar. Is that something that you could try and multi-class with a support to make work, or is that only for attack spells?
Yeah, you definitely could, because anything that gets a familiar, in the same way that a wizard gets a familiar, you can deliver touch spells through that familiar.
That's once again another thing that the shaman has with their spirit animals, as well as the witch. The only downside to the wizard is if you were to just multi-class into wizard, only your wizard spells would work with your familiar.
Mm-hmm. Though there might be something to be said for a wizard that goes diviner. That could be a really good support, because you get to do things that way.
That's sort of the definition of preventative support.
Yeah, a wizard who focuses on divination and transmutation would be pretty powerful. Hell, there are even some archetypes, for example, the Arcane Physician for the wizard, that grants them the ability to basically use healing items and wands and whatnot without UMD and make them. Which, just being able to make healing items and use them without checks, in of itself is a valuable skill. And then, very rarely in Pathfinder do I find it to be a commonly deemed good idea to have a fully focused healer. Normally it's something along the lines of you just want them to be able to heal in the off time.
Mm-hmm.
That
in Pathfinder, healing in combat is just bad.
Yeah, there's not many options really.
You really got to spec into it and go hard that way to get it good. Most healing happens afterwards. So
yeah, and that's why that Arcane Physician is kind of nice, because they can use all of their in-combat resources on supporting the group, and then out of combat, fix that healer role.
So aside from throwing a little love towards the druid, because sometimes they can do it, are there any other?
Can do anything.
Druids do everything. That's why they're bad. That's why they're a badly designed class. I will fight
I don't want
you
to say they're badly designed, but darn are they powerful.
So, well, that can be said about clerics too. So,
Not as bad as druids, though.
Is there anything else that we want to throw out there? I mean, the Strix is kind of nice because you get a fly speed, but other than that, you're not really going to find anything special about it. There's a few classes a few races depending on what class you want to go with that might be beneficial, but Sylph can be good. I think not the Merfolk, but the Undyne have water affinity, Azamar, and so on.
Azamar is just like a no-brainer when it comes to that sort of stuff.
Yeah. All right. Any final remarks about Pathfinder and their support classes? Are they buffer, debuffer?
I think as far as like Pathfinder and its associated classes and races goes, I would probably, if I were going for like the most, what comes to my head when I think of the support character, I would probably go for like a halfling cavalier if I wanted something more martial, like just like a little short fat dude riding around on a Doberman, or like a human bard. Mm-hmm. Those are the two most archetypal. I'm here to make you look good classes.
So I will say about races, I didn't find out until afterwards that this was like a homebrew race or whatever, but I was playing another one shot and I did a half, I think it was a half goblin.
A half goblin?
And like one of the traits was that like it excreted, like the sweat it excreted was a healing property, so you had so much healing you could do around. So what I did is I'd wipe my under my armpits and slide it onto somebody to do healing on them.
I don't think that's a homebrew necessarily. I think that might have been drain scarred.
That's off. That's heinous. That's gross. It's just gross.
I mean, I know, for example, Dream Scarred actually has a half Knoll template.
Well, the real question for me is half what else? Because that's just not right.
What Jack Harkness wannabe is tumbling through the bushes looking for goblins and gnolls to romance.
I love that you went
the bard
rather than
pillage human bard.
Yeah, well, no, let's all be honest. It's Jack Harkness. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
Captain Jack can't keep it in his pants. It's his fault. He is the bard of the Doctor Who universe, multiverse,
really
whatever
is.
it is.
Oh,
all right. So,
excellent.
Transferring from Pathfinder over to Open Legend. I will get myself over there.
Talking to you all. Bye.
We still like you, buddy.
Hey, I like you too.
Thanks.
The amount of times people have just randomly come up to me in work and I've just met them and go, "You're my best friend," is crazy. I don't know why I thought of that. It just kind of popped in my head.
You're their best friend?
Yeah, they're just like, "You're my best friend." I was like, "I just met you, but yes, you're my best friend."
Excellent.
That's
we're
concerning.
Friends now.
Yeah, that's like cable guy levels of I'm not sure about you. All right. We are in Open Legend. So, we have the resident experts for Open Legend here. We will let me see.
Well,
Mustashe is the guest here, so he gets to go first then. How about that?
Okay. Well, I have 9 tabs open right now.
No.
So I could go over. So I've been doing stuff with Open Legend for a while, and the Hero Muster site, the guy had to actually extend how many characters you had saved that it displayed at the time because I had so many that they were getting cut off. So I've built a lot of different characters over time. So I guess I'll start off with something that's not as common to think of because it's maybe a little bit more out of combat situation. A good face of the group. So it's a build that focuses a little bit on influence and persuasion. And then has skill specialization in persuasion. Has potent Bane Charmed, Unending Charm, and Bane Focus Charmed.
Oh.
so that they can in out of combat situations. I mean, that's very useful in combat too, obviously, but out of combat they can be the face of the group, talking to people. But they, because of their skill specialization, they can also focus on stuff like telepathy to keep communication up between all of the group, even if you're in different areas. So it's kind of a non-standard conceptual look of a support.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say it's non-standard in tradition in some of the RPGs, like Pathfinder or whatnot. But if you're playing something like Shadowrun, for Pete's sake, mama, the face is necessary. Basically, it's funny. The higher the lethality of combat, the more likely you're going to see a pure face, so to say.
Yeah, for sure. And
because having somebody who's specialized in preventing you from getting into that stupidly dangerous combat is just as valuable as having somebody who's good in that stupidly dangerous combat.
It's true.
If not better.
Well, and then still kind of on that same end, if you are in a Dungeon Delve game, going skill specialization, perception, and agility. Agility for disarming traps and for picking locks, and perception for spotting them is an interesting
build.
Yeah. So they also happen to have the build that I did is they are an accomplished seller of items that were gotten completely legitimately. So they also have skill specialization deception.
That's good.
So I'll let somebody else speak.
Okay.
As I threw those out real quick.
Oh man, those are so good. Well, I could go with the other end of it, looking at the more magical. One of the big, I was thinking buffer, debuffer, and we talked about it a little with the tank. In the protection skill, you do have that nullify and restoration.
Most underused Bane, nullify.
That's what I say. I had it in one monster in my show, and I only got to use it a little bit, but it's so good. Nullify gets rid of any boons on someone, so you can be debuffing the enemy. That one could be really good. And then Mustashe was talking about his one character that does the fatigue.
Oh, you want me to go into that one?
Yeah, because I think that's in the same realm of, but doing it from a Baney side.
Yeah, so they have multi-attack specialist, battle trance and reckless attack build, and Bane focus fatigued, and multi-target attack specialist, ranged. So basically what they focus on, and this was more built as a villain, but it could definitely be a character build, but they can just do, in one round, they can do a total of 5 fatigue attacks. At a high level, mind you. But 5 fatigue attacks, which at level 5 fatigue, you are unconscious and you do not wake up until you recover a level of fatigue. At 6, you're dead.
Oh.
Now, that's 5 fatigue attacks versus 3 targets. So now the thing about this build, I think, that was a different variation of this build. I had them with boon focus and visibility as well.
Oh,
so they're the invisible boogeyman that makes you sleep and drain you.
You know what it is? It's Jigglypuff.
Oh,
She shows up out of nowhere and puts everyone to sleep.
Oh, come on. Jigglypuff's got to be a bard, though. Jigglypuff's totally a bard.
It's true.
Jigglypuff's so bad at being a bard.
Going back to Pathfinder really quick, Sandman is a bard archetype.
Oh, that's true.
And there you go.
But
I just love that, though, because... well, with the fatigue on top of that, because you could have that support dude that just drops everybody. Then they just have to go in and do finishing blows on everybody.
Yeah, with incapacitated when you bump it up. Well, here's another interesting one. I made a ghost character, so they have boon focus to insubstantial, basically. But what they did is multi-target attack specialist, right? Bane focus provoked, potent Bane provoked, long shot, as well as Bane Focus and Potent Bane and Dominated. So what they can do is they're insubstantial, so the only thing they can target them is Resolve. And they provoke the melee attackers. Which means that those attackers have high disadvantage to attack any of that guy's allies if the attack doesn't include the insubstantial person.
Okie dokie.
So
and,
good.
And that's actually a lot more viable in... that's more along the tank, but making yourself an insubstantial tank. That's not something that we went into when we did the tanking video. Because I didn't know about insubstantial.
Well, it's so much into debuffing, which is something like you don't see as often in Pathfinder, because when you're doing a support role, you have like one of two options. You can either make your numbers bigger than their numbers, or you can make their numbers smaller than your numbers. But it's much easier to make your numbers big.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting about this build is they have access to, on their allies, to cast Invisible, Bolster, Resistance, so they can do, the attack thing, right, with the Provoke, but then they can be throwing out stuff for the allies.
Ooh. So if you were building like a necromantic party, like with the barbarian necromancer we talked about, pairing it up with this insubstantial ghost character, and they're basically, I mean, buddies would be a strong word, but they're on the same team, and it makes it gives those buffs. Yeah, it gives those buffs to each of its friendlies, and as they go on, it just keeps it up and keeps it going. And it would be so thematic and creepy to have that. It just has its hands up, affecting all those different things like threads on its fingers.
Well, then when it dominates somebody too.
Yeah, but how does a barbarian necromancer work? Does he just scream people back alive, or
no? In this game, you can have an aura about you, and it can be tied to any extraordinary. Not any extraordinary. It can be tied to a extraordinary, like entropy, which is basically necromancy.
Okay.
So, that battle rage that you would go into for your, I think this one was the DPS version of a barbarian. That would be doing constant, kind of like bleed damage through its entropy. So that persistent damage would continue, and all of that, all the damage that it was already doing with its physical attacks could continue after the aura's up. And it's a melee fighter, so it's going to be right up in there, so that aura's going to keep with it and move with it and go on with it. So
this is not the Hulk screaming Tony Stark awake after he falls from space.
No.
Right.
Not exactly, no.
I mean, it's open legend. You can do whatever you want.
I mean, I told them...
That's true.
I told them that I may not build the sexy wizard ever, but I'm seriously considering doing something where the sexy wizard was statted up a little bit so that he could literally bend the will of the universe with his might through attribute substitution.
Oh yeah,
one step closer to the muscle wizard.
Yep.
You can definitely do the muscle wizard in open legend.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Speaking of support, like if you're wanting to do a support character, some of the key other feats to look at are superior concentration, so you can maintain more than one boon, and boon focus 2, so that you can do various boons as minor actions.
Yeah.
And then still have a major action to do a secondary boon. So heal is a common one to grab as a boon focus 2, right?
Mm-hmm. And we've kind of already went over it, but just in general, alteration can be a really good attribute.
Alteration has the most access to boons.
Yeah.
Do you want to know the all the heals characters that we calculated out for maximum healing?
I'm afraid to ask, but lay it on me.
So basically 320 healing around. And that's
I've only played Open Legend once, but I feel like that is a large number.
That also is the average. That is not like the maximum dice or exploding dice. That is the average heal. So what it is it's multi-target boon specialist and multi-target boon expert. It's a combination of throwing up regen on a target, having boon focus 3 haste, so that you've got a total of 3 major actions plus a minor action. So that's four healings around at your maximum power level. This is of course like a level 10. So you get 80 per target between all 4 heals and regen being up and sustained, and then that's across 4 targets because of multi-target boon specialist 4 and multi-target boon expert. So that's basically on average, not counting any explosions, 320 healing around.
Now, is this what experience amount are we talking about with this character?
This is a level 10 character who has an attribute at 9 to get the maximum amount of healing, basically.
Okay. So that's a max character,
but
that's
just
still
to
a
note,
lot of
the
hit
maximum
points.
HP. Yeah, the maximum HP a player character can achieve without like special items or something is 75 HP.
Oh,
You know
Why
what?
would you need to do these? Why would you
Well,
need
exactly.
these
You
things?
know what you hear as a GM when the players start throwing out those numbers? We know who dies first.
Right?
So
I feel like if I needed to like put a giant plug in a volcano, like you're the guy I would bring along to keep me alive while I did it.
Right.
you,
Like, I literally could not die fast enough.
well, I mean, knowing the community around Open Legend, they would probably calculate up. Well, technically, the amount of damage that you get from lava would be this much, and if you stood in it, so.
I don't know. We haven't had too many people in the Open
Yeah,
Legend
I'd be,
community like that.
Limited. And I'm a big bag of water, so what would actually happen is I would explode, but that's the
Well,
point.
I mean, honestly, all you need is sustenance, and you would be fine in lava.
It's true.
Really?
Yeah, the sustenance boon allows you to survive an extreme environment.
Mhm. If you level that up high enough, you're basically. Let me see. Shield Boy's not fully immortal yet, so he's got to get more sustenance. But
Yeah. I'll throw the aesthetic perk on top of there just to make sure
Right.
you'll be fine.
all right, but we're not talking about immortal characters right now. We're talking about buffers.
Right.
We've
Yes.
we're pretty much on our time. So, is there any final remarks about the buffer? I feel like it's if someone's wanting to make the classic bard or something like that, going with presence is a good idea. You can look over like Bomb Squad. Their bard is using his flute and his presence and stuff like that. Now, with the
presence
way
and influence, for sure.
Yeah.
with the way it reads, you don't even have to have that instrument thing. If you're going for more of a presence healer, like their presence brings in healing, then you could still use presence. And that
I made or it wasn't me. It was one of my people made like a boot camp sergeant who, with his presence, would yell at people to, bolster them and heal them. And
worst buffs ever.
Show me your war face.
All right. Okie dokie.
speaking on a debuffer, there is Marv the Marvelous that I could talk about. Dan.
Yes.
Oh.
Poor guy.
So Marv the Marvelous is the players managed to luckily befriend and talk to this guy because he was planning to be one person to take all of them on.
He would have killed us.
But he's a multi-bane specialist, so he combines stun plus knockdown, and he has a bane focus in both stunned and knockdown. So with one attack, he can both stun the target and knock them down. Stunned is great because you only get one action. So you can choose for your one action to try and resist stunned. If you're successful, then yeah, you can get your other actions back, but if you're not, your round's done. You can't do anything. And then he's also a multi-attack specialist, so that once he stuns you and knocks you down, then he's going to Bane Focus blind you. And he can and he has multi-target attack specialist 3 area, so he can affect a 9x9 cube, doing all that.
He sounds like Ty Lee jumping
like a rock.
around blocking chi and stuff like that.
I was
He's
just thinking
great.
He was going to poke out their freaking eyes, but sure, I know what you guys do.
Good. Hey, at least mine people got to
Classic.
keep their organs. All right.
Yeah, the thing with Open Legend, there's just so many ways to do stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah. And the system's kind of built, the Banes and Boons, because it's built around that. You're doing a lot of buffing or debuffing all the time.
Mm. All right. We hope you have enjoyed this discussion about the supporter, buffer, debuffer type of build and character and ideas for it. And thank you to Dan and to the great Mustashe for coming by. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Have a great day. God bless. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Nice. Got it at the end.
This content was made possible by travelers and viewers like you. Thank you.